Welcome everyone to our, I figure this is number 267 coffee chat, November 28th, 2020. This is our via Zoom, Victoria Electric Vehicle Association coffee chat. I'm sure there'll be more joining us, and I hope so. It'd be good. The more the merrier, but never mind. We've got a good group going here. We can start up today. We have an interesting lineup, I think. To start off, I'd just like to welcome you all, of course, then make a few comments of announcement-wise, mostly from you'll find this on the website. We're not going to be holding the Christmas light event this year. There's too many conflicts, and with the new COVID requirements, etc. But what we've done is we're going to take our $250 fee that we normally donate to the, what is it, the
Victoria Festival Society.
Yeah, and that's for the light, you know, the light parade that we do, the Christmas parade. And we're going to give that to the Rainbow Kitchen, which is their chosen charity this year, I believe. If you go to the website, Jim's got the link up there. Likewise, there's other items on there that you'll hopefully find of interest. There is also an invite from BC Hydro to participate in their charge rate at public charging stations discussion, which is coming up, I believe, December 4th. But the link is there, so if you want to participate, please do. It's your chance to speak up. I think they know what we think already. We tend to be in conversation with BC Hydro in various capacities historically, and so the club itself is in there somehow. I thought I'd mention, since we're talking about well, different items today, I'll just run through our agenda here. Doug Beckhead's joined us from Prince George. The Prince PG EVA is anyone welcome to those members and those folks up there. But Doug is going to talk to us a little bit about his EV experience up there. Jerry Delval is going to give us a little rundown on the Kona recall, which he's gone through apparently. And Ted Davies is has a few comments to make about Leaf batteries, which is in the news right now a little bit, with some discussion around that. And Glenn and Jim are going to add to that as well. My own Leaf, by the way, I'll just give a quick rundown of that. Is a 2011 I got in December, 9 years old now, 68,000 kilometers, and I'm still getting better than 6 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Although I have about a 15% drop in capacity of range, it's still working great. I run it, I can set it at 80%, which I've always done, and it doesn't have a DCFC, so I've never quick charged it. I drive it carefully, and of course we all live in Victoria, so it was an original to Victoria, and that's a pretty light, the climate is easy on batteries in general. I don't let it run below 20% very often. It does happen occasionally. Usually I plug in right away. And so I find that I also drive lightly, by the way, most of the time, especially now, you know, that beat those guys on those little Honda Accords with that tin can mufflers. Don't have to do that anymore. So they won't even race me, because they know they're going to lose. But anyway, yeah, so at 100%, I still get about 120 kilometers plus, and at 80% about 102. That's roughly where I am, and that's more than sufficient for why I bought the car 9 years ago. And I decided we wanted to hang on to it and see where this car took us historically. And so far, it's been performing fabulously. I haven't had any service done on it for about 5 years. Spent less than $1,000 in those 9 years. I took it into the dealer a few times at the beginning, and I just sort of quit because it was kind of a pointless battery diagnostic thing they did. And I can take care of the tires and brakes myself. I haven't really had to do anything with the brakes. So it's due for some service. I'll probably take it to an independent. Haven't decided yet. So moving right along. Doug, would you like to take it from here? And again, thanks so much for pitching in.
Hi, so I'll bring up my screen, and can you confirm that you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm Doug Beckhead. I live in Prince George on Clayton 10A territory, and I won a Tesla Model 3 courtesy of the Victoria EV Club. So thank you very much. It's wonderful. I've had lots of fun telling people that I won a Tesla Model 3, and people go, whoa, missing the first model on that. So kind of cute. So anyways, I'll do a presentation, about 15 minutes. I used to doing presentations of over an hour to the public, people who are trying to learn about EVs, but I'm preaching to the converted, people already part of the religion of EVs, so that's kind of nice. So just a quick overview of how I became an EV enthusiast. And then some very brief stats and observations, first obtained from our electric pickup truck, and then the 2013 Leaf that we had, 2016 Leaf. And I've just recently got onto Leaf Spy, so I have a request for help there at some point. So in the early 2000s, my wife wanted us to start driving electric. My dad had a coworker through the 70s who had an electric Volkswagen Beetle that he converted and drove. So I wasn't ignorant of them, but I thought at that time it was like, why don't we go for a hybrid Prius? And my wife had done a little bit of reading and said, no, you get the worst of both worlds if you do that. We're going for one or the other, and I want electric. So early 2000s, she attended the Vancouver Electric Vehicle Association meeting, and there were primarily a bunch of older men there. She was a young white female, which was a little different than the rest of the crew. And there were a lot of nerdy people there who were doing conversions and had electric or had metal cans, and they were attaching them to parts of their motor to cool down devices so they could get better performance. It was quite cool. But through that meeting, she learned of a company on Vancouver Island. Are you getting the pictures in your way?
Yeah, yes, we are.
Okay, let me.
Well, no, it's coming through. What? I see the mighty truck.
Okay, I had your picture showing up on it, and I wasn't sure if you're seeing that as well.
Oh, no.
This company on Vancouver Island, she did conversion kits. At the time, if you wanted a commercial vehicle, you're paying a lot of money for a hand-built commercial vehicle. There just weren't such things as commercial EVs out there, and they're very expensive. So conversion sounded like an option, but neither Lara or I have mechanical inclinations, abilities, or electrical abilities. So I said, talk to the university in town, maybe the college in town, see if there's any clubs, people involved with those institutions that'd be willing to do the conversion for us if we pay for the parts. So she went to the local high school, and the mechanics teacher said, a kit? Sure, we'll do it. So she purchased a 1991 GMC Sonoma, used one, lots of kilometers on it, an EV conversion kit, and the high school mechanics class began doing the conversion. Conversion is supposed to take about 2 weeks for two people who really know what they're doing, working long hours. The school was working on it 1 hour a week during the school season. So that 2 weeks became July 2009. We got our vehicle on the road. That's before the J-plug became a standard. So you can see we got the old RV plug set up for our electric pickup truck. We have no garage. We're just outside of Prince George. We had it for 8 years. I've sold it. We bought this used 2013 Nissan Leaf, tried it out for a month, loved it, got hooked. So we sold the electric pickup truck to somebody in town. It's still on the road. So we had the 2013 Leaf for 2 years, 7 months, and we lost it, sadly. A couple of months later, we managed to get another used, this time 2016 Leaf. So those are the vehicles I'm going to be talking about a little bit. So the electric pickup truck, when we got it on the road, we started off with 24 deep cycle lead acid batteries. And we could have installed lithium batteries at the time, but lithium was a new technology to us. It was very expensive. We didn't know enough at the time. So we did opt for the lead acid batteries. After a couple of years, about 3 years, we decided to upgrade to the lithium batteries. In that 3 years, the price of the lithium batteries decreased by about 30%. So the technology is changing. It's amazing. So we got 44 batteries. Another interesting observation we had was comparison of the lead acid to the lithium. So we had 24 lead acid batteries, 1,700 pounds. 44 lithium batteries was 1,000 pounds less, only 700 pounds. They're half, maybe even a third the space required. Living in Prince George, where we have cold weather, the lead acid batteries gave us problems in the wintertime. The lithium, even at -25, the batteries themselves at -25, you still get fairly decent performance. Our range doubled from 50 kilometers to 100 kilometers. The life expectancy based on the stats for the batteries went 5 years for the lead acid, 15 for the lithium. And the kilometers that you should be able to get out of the batteries, and that's of course not till they're dead, but until the range is decreased to the point where it may start to be a problem, is 10 times what the lead acid batteries were. So even though the lithiums cost quite a bit more than the lead acid, definitely worth the investment. Now, the Vancouver Island company, Vancouver Island people, they're soft. They don't know what cold weather is. So the kit didn't come with a heating pad. So we had a heating pad installed when we upgraded to the lithium. That would have made the truck much more usable in the wintertime had we had it with the lead acid batteries to start with. But even with the lithium batteries, because of their cold weather performance, we actually rarely used the heating pad in the wintertime. It wasn't needed. So 8 years later, we sold the pickup truck. In that 8 years, we put on 57,000 kilometers. We used 17,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. So that's a fuel efficiency of about 3.4 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hours, 10 cents at rate 1, 15 cents at rate 2 for BC Hydro, so not bad. That truck was a 30 miles to the gallon vehicle before it was converted, so it would have used over 5,000 liters of gas to drive the same distance. So at rate 1, the blue color, we would have paid less than we paid less than $1,000 to drive that EV, the 57,000 kilometers. Maybe $1,500 had we paid level 2 on everything. An ICE vehicle, your gas, diesel, internal combustion engine vehicle, we would have paid $5,000 to $7,000 for that same driving. So the 2013 Leaf, we put it into a program with Ministry of Transportation, BC Hydro, and Plug-in BC. Got a little dongle that we plugged into the vehicle. So it was one of 100 EVs in BC that was on a research program. And that program got expanded across Canada with 1,000 EVs, and we stayed in the research program for that. So the vehicle cost us a little bit over $13,000 used. We paid $750 to get it shipped from Victoria up to Prince George. We put on 46,000 kilometers in just under 3 years. And it got rear-ended on December 24th last year. ICBC wrote it off. So they gave us almost $14,000 plus taxes as compensation for the accident. So you can see the depreciation after driving all that distance and 3 years of use isn't very great on an electric vehicle, kind of sweet. So we used about 7,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. Gain, if it had been a 30 mile to the gallon vehicle, we would have used over 4,000 liters of gas. So every month I now reset my fuel efficiency. I track the odometer and the fuel efficiency I got in that month. In the summertime, I was getting about 7 kilometers or so per kilowatt hour. In the wintertime, maybe a little bit less than 5 kilometers per kilowatt hour. So you can see the seasonal change in our fuel efficiency over time. So over the 3 years, we averaged 6.4 kilometers per kilowatt hour. It's about double the fuel efficiency of our converted pickup truck. So compared to an ICE vehicle, we're paying about 1/5 the cost of an ICE. So we're paying equivalent of about 18-27 cents a liter to drive the electric vehicle. The ICE comparison is based on the fuel costs over the time that we had the electric truck, which was $1.03 to $1.33 a liter. So that's 10 cents at BC Hydro rate 1, 16 cents at BC Hydro rate 2. The gas vehicles are paying the equivalent of 60 to 80 cents a kilowatt if you convert over to that. So again, electric prices have to go up a lot before the gas vehicles are on par. I'm always question how long it takes me to charge my vehicle. Well, it takes about 10 seconds to plug in, 10 seconds to unplug. It's a commute vehicle. I'm charging at home. So I'm not driving out of my way to find a plug. So over that 46,000 kilometers, I may spend 8 hours of personal time involved with charging the vehicle. Now, really, that should be based on a little bit over 1 time a day, but I was penalized my use and said I was doing it 1.5 times. Now, that's a small battery. A bigger battery vehicle, you wouldn't be plugging in as often, and it's going to take you even less time to do the same sort of commute driving. So compared to an ICE vehicle, it takes you 5 minutes. You're still spending a lot more time filling your vehicle than I'm spending charging my vehicle. I know people at Costco who spend 15 minutes, which goes off the chart on this one, just to save a few dollars. So looking at fuel and maintenance for my EV compared to an ICE vehicle, I figure I'm saving $20,000 to $30,000 in 200,000 kilometers of driving. 400,000 kilometers of driving, that gas or diesel vehicle is paying $65,000, maybe $80,000 more than an electric vehicle for operating. So I'm often asked, well, if everybody goes electric what's that going to do to the grid? Well, for 46,000 kilometers of driving, it was the same as leaving 8 40-watt bulbs on all the time, or even better, selecting 400-watt incandescent bulbs that you leave on all the time and converting them to 15-watt LEDs. The electricity you save in doing that effort will fuel your vehicle ongoing. So we got into our used 2016 Nissan Leaf, and it cost us about $18,000 plus shipping and taxes. It had about 40,000 kilometers on it at the time, 12 out of 12 battery capacity bars. So I've since driven a little over 7,000 kilometers. It was supposed to be a 25% larger battery, 27% more range. Sort of got confirmation last week that I've been strung along, and it's not a 30 kilowatt battery. It's actually only a 24 kilowatt battery. If anybody has advice for me to proceed on this, that would be great. So again, I'm tracking the fuel efficiency, about 5 kilometers per kilowatt hour in the wintertime, and well over 7 kilometers in the summertime. So far, I've averaged 6.4 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour again being 10 cents at rate 1 or 15 cents at rate 2 from BC Hydro. And a couple of months ago, I got a 5-year-old cell phone for my son. Doesn't have a SIM card. I bought Leaf Spy, and I'm starting to track Leaf Spy data and battery capacity and so on. So I'm looking for advice on what data from Leaf Spy I should collect. And if anybody's familiar with Leaf Spy and is willing to spend a bit of time on the phone with me to get me a little more familiar with it and the pros and cons of having a 10% or 20% buffer on my battery selection with Leaf Spy, I'd love to chat with you. So what data should I collect? And advice on whether I do have a 24, 30 kilowatt hour battery. So to the public, I always finish off with a warning, and I say avoid getting stuck with a stranded asset. If you can, purchase an electric vehicle, but if an electric vehicle model isn't out there that does what you need, then lease your next gas or diesel vehicle and let somebody else have the stranded asset, because electric vehicle transition is happening so quick that you're going to want an electric vehicle and you won't be able to get rid of your ICE at a reasonable price down the road. So people who are interested, more than happy to have you join. I started a little group called the Prince George Electric Vehicle Association years ago to help communicate information about electric vehicles, get people in contact with others. And so email me to subscribe or email me to answer my questions and give me advice. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome, Doug. Really, really great presentation there. That's I actually didn't realize you had such a depth of experience with different vehicles. I was aware of it to a point, but that really, you saw the whole transition from sort of the conversion history. And I do recall VicEVA, when I got my Leaf in 2011, how much they were involved in conversions still at that time. And the Leaf came along and it shook things up because suddenly there's this mass market vehicle available. And you lived right through that change. So that's a really fabulous perspective. We had discussed at the start of this meeting, for all of you that have joined us, that we would go through the different speakers and have a Q&A at the end, and we're going to try that. I hope that you can all, Doug included, stick around and hold your questions. If someone has to leave, that's understandable. We can deal with some questions before that happens. But I'd like to, in light of that, move on to our next Jerry Delvell is going to give us a little bit of a outline on his Kona recall experience.
Thanks, David. Yeah. That was a very interesting presentation, Doug. I really enjoyed listening to it. It's a good way to look at owning an EV. Several, I guess 2, maybe 3 coffee chat meetings ago, there was a little bit of discussion on the Kona problem with the battery, and it had to do with a fire in a car. Now, I had done a little bit of gathering of information months ago. There was a report of a Kona that caught fire in Montreal, and it wasn't plugged in, and that was quite a mystery. And last summer, I had a recall to do some upgrade on the battery management system, which I did. They never explained what it was, and I didn't question it. I assumed it was just normal upgrades. Because I guess I should preface this with a little bit of relevant background. The Kona is a relatively new car. It came out in 2018, delivered to Korea, Australia, Germany, and Norway. And it came to BC and Quebec in 2019, and mine is a 2019. So it's a relatively new product. despite the fact that Kia has had a fair bit of experience with the Soul and Kia belonging to Hyundai. This didn't really transfer over to the Kona because the Kona uses a different battery and it's a brand new management system. So I just took it that, hey, they're just doing a tweak. And two of my friends in my men's social club, after seeing me with the Kona, decided to buy one. So they took delivery in 2020 of the same car that I have. And one of them sent me an email in a big panic that Hyundai was recalling Konas due to potential fire hazards, and he was horrified that he bought a Kona. And anyways, I had a chat with him and told him that I didn't think it was something to be alarmed with. And about a week later, I got a recall notice. Now he didn't, and I'll explain, and you'll see why he didn't get one. So I'm going to read to you what the recall notice said. I'll just read the portion that says that what is the problem, and it reads this: the high voltage battery system in the subject vehicles might contain certain electrical deficiencies, such as internal damage to certain cells of the lithium ion that could increase the risk of an electrical short circuit after full charging the lithium ion battery. An electrical short in the lithium ion battery could increase the risk of a fire. And so that apparently was the issue with the car in Quebec. There was also a similar report of a car in Europe that had a fire. I'm not aware of others, but what's clear is that in both cases, the cars were fully charged. And in the case of the one in Quebec, we know for sure it was not plugged in when it caught fire. So clearly Hyundai learned something the hard way, and they were doing upgrades on the battery management system. Turns out that I never charged my car to 100%. Unlike some of the older cars, I have a similar type of software capability built into the car that I can choose where to stop the charge. So for level 1, level 2, I cap it at 80%. I have a dumb level 2 charger in my garage, and that works out quite well. And with the 500 kilometer range on a full battery, 80% is 400 kilometers. I'm good around town. And for a level 3, I cap it at 90%. And we all know that everything slows down above 80% anyway, even with a level 3. So at 90%, it's quite comfortable to charge it up to 90% and keep going. So I took my car in and last week, and they did an update, and everything's fine. I had no damage in the lithium ion battery pack. They did a full check on it, and there was, and I didn't expect it since I didn't have, I never charged it to 100%. The notice was for all cars that were produced up to February 28, 2020. So anybody who buys a car that was manufactured after February of this year, they don't have that issue. The upgrade is already built into the car as it comes off the assembly line. That pretty well wraps up the report on the Kona. I'll take questions later if need be, but I would like to give a brief update on another battery problem that came to the surface a couple of weeks ago. Somebody who owns a 2018, Kia Soul, wrote to the VicEVA website asking for help, and I was tasked to get in touch with him. So I did. His complaint was that his car had severe loss of range. I never talked to him. I only had an email address. I emailed him. He emailed me back, but he chose not to speak with us. But we had 2 email exchanges. And in that, what I gathered was that his car was down to an 80-kilometer range, and didn't allow him to commute from wherever he lives in town to where he works downtown. My first email, my reaction was, it's clearly not a normal situation. It needs to be looked after. He had tried with the Kia, Victoria Kia service manager, who basically had brushed him off. I guess he took my email and went to the general manager, who agreed with what I had written in the email, saying, yeah, you have a problem. We'll take a look at it. So the upshot of all this is that his car apparently is down, the battery down to 71% capacity after 2 years, maybe even less than 2 years. And I didn't know this, but Kia has a 70% point where they will replace the battery. So he's 1 percentage point above the point where they'll replace the battery. But the rate at which his battery is degrading, they're going to replace his battery. So basically, that's all I know, since he chose not to talk to me. I wanted to know what his charging habit was. Did he charge the car 200%? Does his car have the capability to prevent the car from being charged all the way? I don't know any of that, but at least we were able to help somebody who's not a member, but who I'm sure appreciated that we give him a hand. So there we are. Thanks.
Oh man, that's good stuff, Jerry, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for, by the way, following that lead up with the Kia Soul owner, because that is, I think, an important part of what we do as a club is advocate for people and show some support, because it is still a bit frightening for many people to get into it, and we're just trying to help. I think that's what it comes down to. So that's fabulous, and I liked your report on your vehicle. It's very interesting for me. I've had a Leaf and for many years, like I mentioned, and a Tesla for 2.5 years, and so it's always fascinating to hear other experiences with other vehicles. It's really valuable to broaden our scope, because as we go, I'm finding it interesting how it's hard when someone asks about EVs and I say, well, there's a lot out there, and if you don't get enough stories, it's hard to really have anything to say. There are more all the time, that's for sure. I think I have a question for you anyway, too, for the end. So thanks for that very much. Our next bit will be, I think maybe Ted Davies can give us a few comments about the Leaf batteries, I believe. We have Glenn, of course, our starstruck director of the VEVC. What happened to your forest there, Glenn?
I gave it up for Waldorf and Statler.
Yeah, right on. And Jim Henshaw, he has some things to add, I believe. And I noticed also Kelly Carmichael. Welcome, Kelly. And I don't mean to drag you in, but Kelly's always got lots of experience, and perhaps you'll have some comments to contribute. Anyway, Kelly's here as well, over from Vancouver. Ted, why don't you take it away then and just start the conversation. And once we're done with this segment, we can get into the bigger Q&A for everyone. But anyway, thanks, Ted.
Yeah, glad to do that. I was invited by Jim Henshaw and Glenn Gary into a conversation a while back via Zoom with Manu Gobel, I think is the pronunciation of his name. He's the general manager at Campus Nissan in Victoria. And it was related to the article that was distributed by CBC about a 2013 Leaf owner in Powell River. And Jim did a great job of assembling the article, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to read it in the last couple of days, but it definitely didn't paint a real pretty picture of Nissan and maybe older Nissan Leafs, and maybe EVs in general, in terms of what happens when the battery starts to lose capacity. And the manager there, Manu, didn't seem to be particularly helpful in terms of dealing with this sort of situation. He wasn't well aware of any pricing structure for replacing batteries. They had done some work with warranty replacement, but batteries came from the Nissan headquarters back east, and the defective or degraded batteries went back to them. So they didn't really have much of an idea on the cost. He did, and it was an interesting and probably disheartening, at least to me, expression of what they're thinking about in terms of Nissan Leafs, that as they age and their batteries degrade, what he'd seen was that the Leaf owner that didn't like their reduced range would just sell their car to another prospective Leaf owner who was okay with 80-kilometer or less range. And then the original owner would upgrade to a newer, better Leaf. And that was the protocol. It wasn't a protocol of changing out batteries, and had expressed no awareness of anyone wanting to do that, nor did he really seem proactive at all in terms of saying, well, yeah, we better get on that because that's a potential growth business. Some dialogue back and forth and some frustration with headquarters, I guess. And we certainly, as VicEVA members, expressed some concern that that article presented the aging EV as a throwaway device. And certainly not, we don't want that image to be out there. And it's been somewhat frustrating dealing with Nissan on this. The fellow Clayton Brander of Powell River, interesting set of information. He is not happy with the pricing he's gotten in BC, and he's waiting for the border to open to head south to get his battery on his 2013 Leaf replaced down there, which apparently is at a substantial discount from what it would be here in BC. I had the chance to talk to the service managers at Kia and at Hyundai in town here. Their perspective was even less aware, because Kia and Hyundai EVs are much newer, and the prospect of selling new batteries or replacing batteries on their vehicles just wasn't on their radar screens at all. They had done a little bit of warranty repair, but not much. The one eye opener on the Hyundai service manager's comment was someone had come in and their battery had significantly degraded within a year or two. And she fully admitted it took them 4 to 5 months to sort out the getting of the replacement battery, the installation, and the return to happiness, if that's the right word, for the Hyundai owner. So this is, the story's not done on this, but a certain amount of concern on all of this. So I don't know if Jim or Glenn have some comments they'd like to pipe in at this stage.
I'll pop in for a couple things. First off, from the guy who raised the issue, he knew he was getting a car that had been spent its first part of its life in Southern California, a lot of hard level charging. He knew what he was getting into. He was well advised on that, and he was just very disappointed in that his initial contacts with Nissan Up Island at the dealership level. So this, I guess he'd been dealing with Courtney or River. Yeah.
Campbell River.
He'd been dealing with them and hadn't got any great answers, right? You know, they were just pulling things out of thin air and tossing them out there and weren't really digging. And then when he went to Nissan corporate, they just ignored him for a long time, which is why out of frustration, he went the CBC Go Public route. in there, you know, when he uses the throwaway phrase, you know, I want to keep my car out of the landfill because he loves the Leaf. He wants it to run forever. He knew that was an unfortunate thing. We've spoken with CBC, the producers of that particular segment, and when they do an update, they will go back and make sure that, oh, by the way, nothing goes to a landfill for batteries. Okay, so there's that. There does seem to be, in my estimation, there's a bit of a schism between the dealership level and the corporate level. At the dealership level, they're very focused on what they can move today or what they can service in their bays today. So going after this business of replacing batteries isn't really appealing to them, unless they can get a lot of work hours out of it. For instance, if, you know, say Nissan corporate sends them all the battery components and then allows the dealership to pull the battery pack apart, pull all the modules out one by one and replace them all one by one in a 8, 10 or 12 hour sort of at shop rates level. That's about the only time a dealership would find it in their economic interest to get interested. On the corporate side, Nissan is in a fair amount of economic trouble at the moment. You're probably going to see them dumping Mitsubishi here pretty soon. They are, last 18 months ago, they got rid of the actual company that they were involved in that built their own batteries. They sold that off. So now when they go to replace batteries for these cars, they're having to, if they have to replace it with a new one, they've got to go back to this now third party to order these things. So, you know, the margins disappear for them then. They're now hoping that life will all be better when they release the Aria, because it'll have a active cooling battery management system on board. So there's all that happening. Have I encapsulated that right, Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So how does it make you feel as a Leaf owner? This example is, you know, first sort of big one. Kelly Carmichael on here, he's one of the first guys who had to go out and actually replace a battery on a Leaf. We've spoken to another member who's replaced one. Interestingly, there were significant differences cash-wise between two different batteries being replaced by the manufacturer, by the dealership out of warranty. Those differences are, you know, can be up to $5,000. So there's all sorts of interesting things going on. We have impressed upon our local Nissan dealership here that this is important. This devalues all their stock sitting on their lot. It devalues the product they're trying to sell today. And we'll have an issue with the product they're trying to sell next year, the Aria. There's one other thing we should talk about, and that is what happens to the batteries when they come out. So say you've taken your car to the dealership, whatever way they've decided to replace the battery, and your old battery comes out. We were told by someone, I will say he believes this, that those batteries come out of the cars, they then get collected and then shipped off to Japan or whatever happens to them. I'm going to give Kelly Carmichael a quick bit here. Kelly's from BCIT. He's deeply involved in what happens to batteries, has had to be very involved in what happens to batteries after they come out of cars. And I'll let him have a bit here on what happens. And you're muted. If Elon Musk can be muted and start talking, I'm sure Kelly can.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. So when I had to replace my battery in my car, it got us thinking about what does happen to the old battery as they age. And we know the stories are that it's going to go into a second life use. It's going to go in a battery farm and for wind power, whatever. And so we started looking at what actually happens, and it led us to a company in Trail called Retrieval Technologies, who's the only place in Canada that does lithium battery recycling. And they were forthcoming to tell us that they have contracts with every car manufacturer. And so when Nissan gets a battery back that comes out of a car, it doesn't go to Japan. It gets shipped to Trail. They will dismantle the battery. The plastic bits do go to the landfill, but the metal pieces all get put into the incinerator and melted down and into cake. And based on the type of battery that it is, Nissan has to pay for that recycling. They don't make money off of it. And because Nissan's chemistry doesn't have a lot of cobalt in it, there's not a lot of value for Retrieve to recycle it. So it costs about $2.50 a pound to recycle. Tesla batteries have a lot more valuable metals, so their price is only 50 cents a pound. So that's where I believe all the batteries are ending up, and that's why Nissan doesn't have any refurbished batteries for us to buy as Leaf owners.
Yeah, or into the, if somebody decides to have an off-grid sort of thing and take on the ability to build their own battery backup as well. Yeah, those sort of reporting we got out of the States. Oh, it's all the off-gridders stealing the batteries. Yeah, no.
And so I'd like to point out that I'm not trying to be against these solutions. I think that these are really good things to do with it, but I don't believe it's currently happening. And we have to at least acknowledge that that's not really happening yet in order to make it happen in the real world.
So Kelly, are you saying that somebody at a car dealership might have misinformed us?
I think they were correct when they said they ship it back to Nissan Canada, which is probably in Richmond or New Westminster, in that office, and then they would ship it all at once. So they would gather them up at that point. But I do believe that the Nissan dealership probably thinks that's what's happening, because that makes a really good story.
Right.
And they were probably told that that's what would happen.
The Nissan dealerships have all been told their childhood dog went to the farm.
Yeah.
Get to play it.
I think we flogged that one. Don't give up hope. You still, people who have Leafs, you still have a great car. It still does what you want it to do. Awesome. We are still in early days of things going awry. The third-party market is yet to develop, and it's economics, right? So we're already at this edge of the hockey stick for economics of EV adoption. We're still on the very flat for the economics of what to do with a battery.
Hi there. Hi there. It's Bruce Stout from Vancouver. I have a friend who lives on Main Island by the name of Sally Graham. She has a Tesla Model X and a Nissan Leaf, a 2011 Nissan Leaf. And apparently the range is quite reduced on that car. Anybody on this call planning to go to Main Island soon?
Nope.
Silence was overwhelming.
Everybody's staying home.
Can't say that I blame you. Well, she's got another challenge with her Tesla. Apparently she took the car over to Victoria and went to a watchmaker to get the batteries replaced in her key fob. And now she can't get the key fob to work to open the car. So I guess I'm going to Main Island. Anyway, I'm really interested in your conversation about Nissan Leaf batteries, because she's obviously going to need a Nissan Leaf battery very soon, 2011 car.
Well, she should try contacting Campus Nissan and go from there, because it can happen, but it won't be quick and it won't be cheap.
She's got an appointment for the 17th of December to take the Nissan Leaf in there to get it looked at. So she's already proactive that way. But I'll have a conversation with her. What kind of money were the Nissan Leaf batteries cost to get replaced? What have you got so far?
The latest we have all in for a 24 kilowatt is 13,500.
Yeah, so what's the car worth, the 2011 Nissan Leaf?
Barely that.
David?
Yeah, but what's it worth once that's done? That's the bigger question.
Yeah.
Well, I know somebody who just bought a 2015 Nissan Leaf with 76,000 kilometers on it for $9,500 and with a working battery.
Yeah.
And
So
there's the problem with the throwaway thinking that as EV advocates, we really don't want to see happen.
yeah, and I would add that I have the 2011 Leaf as well, and my range is still, it's depleted, sure, 15% or so, but it's still more than enough. So I don't know when, Bruce, when you say her Nissan Leaf battery's depleted, well, yeah, that's what batteries do. So it's hard to know what her requirements are, et cetera. Maybe she needs a new car, maybe she needs to replace, I don't, it's very hard to know.
Well, when I talked to her, she's out in the car right now because she's locked out of the Tesla because of the key situation. So
Yeah.
I'll talk to her again once she gets home and try and get some more information. But
Great. So
Bruce?
Yep.
Can I interject? Has she been using her phone as a key? Because she should be able to use her phone to open her car.
I'm 73 years old. Sally is older than me. Sally does not
Well,
have
I'm
a smart.
72 and she doesn't have a smartphone?
She doesn't have a smartphone.
okay.
She doesn't understand that technology.
All right.
So it's, she's a wonderful earth mother. She has got the most interesting Nissan Leaf in the world with flowers all over it. But she's not a technical person, and you're way more technical than she is. So
I guess. That's
Yeah.
too bad.
yeah, it's one of those things. But
Yeah.
I'm hearing about what you're talking about Nissan Leafs. I think that's important for me to try and put my ear to the ground with you guys and figure out what you're doing, how you're doing it, and see if there's some way we can save this Nissan Leaf from having flowers planted in it and sitting in a field somewhere.
right on.
Well, one of the things we didn't really address in the follow-up article that we did is 2 or 3 of the people that we talked to had replacements done. Were kind of annoyed by the fact that when they went to the dealership, the primary purpose of the managers, the salespeople all tried to put them into a new Leaf or another used one that was an upgrade from what they were driving. And they were kind of annoyed by all of that. And Julian Sale posted a really interesting thing on Facebook a couple of days ago, talking about the fact that while Clayton's car, I think he was getting 80 kilometers on a full charge, might not work in Prince George. It would certainly work for somebody in Victoria who was only using it to commute. So I think we got to be a little bit careful about these cars are like unusable suddenly. Because there are all kinds of people who drive in a different way. And in fact, we had a couple of dealers say that for the price of the replacement, they could get him into another used Leaf, which with much longer range, et cetera. So I think it becomes an economic thing of are you just trying to save this car for as long as possible, or are you more concerned with the use you can get out of the vehicle you own?
So the challenge we have here, the dealership model is to sell what's available today and sell what's on the lot.
Yep.
So saving someone's car by replacing a battery at 13.5 or selling them a new car at 13.5, it's pretty obvious to me what decision is going to be made by the dealer. And I can't really fault the dealer for that, because
No.
They're basically trying to feed their family. And that's what it's all about for them. They're not the manufacturer. So it's a challenge. It really is, because Kelly remembers, and I remember when I bought my 2012 Nissan Leaf, that we were told we could get a replacement battery for $5,500 Canadian.
Right.
So we thought, well, I mean, Kelly, at the time he had his original car, we figured that over the time he had his car, probably 165,000 kilometers on it at that time, he'd probably saved $16,500 driving that car and not buying gasoline. So for $5,500 for a new battery, God, that was a no-brainer. He could put 3 batteries in.
And the reality is, in 2012, that was the price of a replacement.
That's
But
correct.
it's gone up.
And now it's 13.5. So
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go listen again.
And two, somebody who's been trying to find used batteries for other projects, even a really beat up as is battery from the wrecker or private sales is $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 just for an unknown quantity.
Yeah, I'm not sure the $5,000 battery exists even in Washington or Oregon, but I don't know.
Well, you can get one, but it'll be thoroughly thrashed.
Yeah.
Like, you can go online and find these batteries, and but yeah, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, Tom Sawyer just went through that. He imported 3 from the US, supposedly brand new batteries, and they were at about 80%. And he's got them for sale again now at $2,500 each, and no takers so far.
My
So
2013 Leaf went to the scrapyard, and I was told how much it went for, the vehicle, everything. It was like $2,700, I think. It wasn't a lot, and the battery was still it only lost 1 bar, so it's still above 85%. For that sort of price, I think whoever got the dregs of my vehicle made out well.
Gary?
I'd like to add something concerning the lack of response from the dealers. I think it's really true. It's there. It's real. I think they're unsure where they're going, and they don't have any history on dealing with electric cars. They've got oodles of years and decades of dealing with internal combustion engine maintenance. This is all new to them. But I want to tell you something that I picked up. How valid it is, time will tell. But when I had my Kona in this week for the upgrade, I went and spoke with the sales manager. He's a really nice fellow. I got to like him. He's reminds me a lot of my son-in-law. Anyway, we were talking about what's coming down the pipe, and what I gathered from him, and he's just relaying to me what he gets when Hyundai head office comes and talks to them. And here's what I understood: that by 2023, which is only 2 model years away from now, the Hyundai Corporation intends to, I'm not going to say use the word split, but to separate hybrids from, or sorry, BEVs from the rest of the pack. And they're going to adopt the Ioniq name as a new brand for all of the future EVs. And that the balance of the Hyundai models, they're all going to be hybrids. To me, that's a very significant thing, because it's a corporate commitment toward electric vehicles. That's going to filter down through the dealerships. The other thing that struck me, and all you Kona owners, or not Kona, sorry, all you Tesla owners are going to find this interesting. Apparently, around the same time, they're going to change the dealerships to look more like Tesla model, where there's going to be fewer vehicles on the lot to sell, but demonstration models. They're even talking about going to the client's house with a couple of models, letting them test drive them from their own home. And that the dealerships will be maintenance service areas for the electric vehicles. So, you know, take this with some kind of grain of salt, but what it tells me is that the industry is waking up. I think that Tesla has shown that they are, well, they've paved a new way for cars of the future, and that the serious car manufacturers are paying notice. They're seeing the writing on the wall. They're moving in that direction. It's working for Tesla. It's giving them a big signal.
Yep. And
Right on.
you can see that right now with the way that Ford is marketing the new F-150s, both the hybrid and electric. Right on the ads, or if you watch football and see the commercials, they're saying specifically, you don't have to go to a dealership. You can order online. So
Changes already.
The analogy I like is that the dealerships are in a foot race. Legs, right? One of them is their ability to make internal combustion drive lines and all that entails. Manufacturer is the dealerships themselves. So they're in a foot race. They knowing they have to chew off both legs and regrow two more in order to try and even stay in sight of the runner who's way ahead of them. This is their problem that they have this decade to sort out.
Right on.
A number of them are going to be, you know, the Black Knight and the Holy Grails, you know, sitting on its stumps beside the bridge.
Don Scott, you had a question about your back. Do you want to ask it? Don?
Let me, I'll mute myself here, sorry. No, I was just wondering, I had heard some time ago, a year or two ago, that there were people doing rebuilds of batteries. In other words, taking a couple of Leaf batteries, pulling out the bad cells and putting the good cells and making one refurbished battery. Do they exist still, or any word on that? Is there anything in Canada? I thought there might have been somebody in Quebec doing that.
There's a lot of places doing it. I think Precision, is it Precision that's doing it in Vancouver?
No,
Yeah, Precision Auto, they call themselves.
Sorry, Kelly, you were saying?
Precision Auto does not work with opening up the batteries at this point. They're looking at it, but they have to deal with some insurance stuff because there's liability with high voltage. So
yep.
And is there someone in Quebec?
Yeah, I forget the name of the company. It's like
It's Phoenix spelled with an F.
Pardon me?
Phoenix spelled with an F.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's mostly smoke and mirrors. Good advertising.
Yeah, there's also an operation in Trois-Rivières called Garage Simon Andre, who's apparently doing rebuilds or refurbishing, but I don't have details.
Right on. Bernie, did you have a question? I saw your finger go up there a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm with the Mid-Island EV Club, and we got a letter recently about the Leaf, and we decided that we would like at maybe joining together and write a letter to the Nissan from the clubs to inform them that we're concerned as clubs. I don't know if that was thought of before or wasn't thought of, but I thought I would pass that on.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the kind of stuff we do. Whether or not we have in this case, I don't know the history of that for sure. Do Jim or Glenn, do you have a?
Well, we've been reaching out to Nissan Canada, and one of the dealerships was reaching out on our behalf as well, but we probably had less luck than an actual Leaf customer in getting a response from Nissan.
Yeah, and talking to clubs across Canada, everybody's kind of watching what's going on. Decided to go down the road yet of approaching Nissan with just one letter. And again, it's because of the understanding of the economics, right? We can say, hey, we're concerned, and they'll say, we get it. I mean, because they're very concerned about their own survival. And we're not exactly offering them a path to survival. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's worthwhile a letter from somebody to say that some of the clubs, I'm sure the clubs would join together and with the respect of saying this is happening, and we'd like to maybe get a something to go on with it. But I know I wouldn't be expecting to be resolved, but at least to be aware that the clubs are concerned about it.
Right.
Anyway.
I raised the same thing through EMC last year to try to get them to kind of voice that as well at a manufacturer level in not specifically Nissan, but for all manufacturers.
Mm-hmm. Did you get an answer back on that?
EMC was not concerned about it.
Okay.
Too many of the members were the manufacturers, and so that was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Who's EMC, please? Who is EMC?
Electric Mobility Canada.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
It started off as a lot of grassroots, and then started inviting having conferences, and they're looking for corporate sponsors, and then eventually the corporate sponsors took over things and then started running the agenda, and then watering down any of the sort of statements or recommendations from it. So, we as an association, we've kind of like backed out of it quietly. Not saying they're evil or anything, and there's terrible people working at EMC. There's some really good people working there, but it has turned into an industry organization. The grassroots, the associations across country, we've gone off and done our own thing. So.
Okay. There was some, I understand from Motorized that they've replaced several batteries on Leafs that they've brought into the country. And I thought it was they were dealing with a dealership up island a bit. And I'm not sure, was that in Ladysmith or Duncan and Nanaimo, or does anybody know?
Julian was getting Duncan Nissan to do the programming part, because when you switch the battery, you have to program the car to accept the new battery. Otherwise, it goes on like a turtle mode. And Nissan Victoria won't talk to Julian.
So did they? Who did the actual battery replacement then? Did Julian do that himself? Does he have the facilities to do that, or did he?
The actual physical battery swap can take. I could instruct 2 mechanics how to do it, and it would take them less than an hour. So it's a minimum amount of knowledge. It's all just physical stuff. Take the covers off, take the bolts out, lower it on a platform of some kind. If you watch the guys from New Zealand, they stack up half a dozen pallets on a lift. I've switched batteries laying on the ground with a pallet jack. So it doesn't take long to physically change it. It's the getting the car to accept the new battery that takes special technology.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Because I would have thought that the dealers get a fair amount of money from Nissan to do this, just like any other warranty kind of work. They usually get paid a fairly decent price for doing the warranty work, from what I understand.
That's right, and that's what Julian was saying. He'd had Duncan Nissan swap 3 batteries for him under warranty with Nissan Canada, but because they don't like him at Campus Nissan, the work had to be done in Duncan, and they passed up. I forget what the number was, like $20,000 worth of work.
Yeah, bizarre.
That's great. So we have Doug is still patiently waiting here for us. Any comments you can add, Doug, or questions for Doug? You talked about his early experience with a conversion truck, etc., and so on.
I'd just like to thank Doug for a great presentation. I love the detail that he's got there. How do you know what you're charging your vehicle each time? Do you have a meter on your house that on your charge cord that indicates what your actual charge is?
No, when we did upgrade to a level 2, I tried to get the electrician to wire in a meter at the same time, and he ignored me, and so I didn't. But with the electric truck, I would do my readings, what I was before charging, what I was after charging, and kept track of that. I then charged at a level 2 at the university, and then a couple of times a year I would do a request for their data, and so I'd line up their kilowatts to my readings, because my readings weren't kilowatts, and came up with a conversion. Then with the Leafs, I'm doing the fuel efficiency, then I reset the fuel efficiency, so it's starting from 0, and based on the fuel efficiency and the kilometers driven, I come up with my kilowatt hours of use. So it's a bit generic, but it works.
Yeah. Now with Leaf Spy, I've been using it for the 43 years I've had my Leaf as well. And something I find very confusing on it is its calculation for the efficiency is something you have to put in yourself. And then it does calculations for the range and whatnot based on what you put in, from what I understand about it. And even though I've used Leaf Spy, I certainly don't understand that much about how it works.
Yes, I noticed that too. So I put in my fuel efficiency with knowledge of what my fuel efficiency is. What I haven't done is there is a spot on Leaf Spy that'll tell you how much kilowatt hours you've used since you reset it. I haven't started to track that, and I haven't looked into yet as to whether that is built off of my fuel efficiency assumption or if it is an actual kilowatt reading. I think it should be an actual kilowatt reading. But part of my problem has been I wasn't sure. I was told I had a 30 kilowatt battery. Leaf Spy kept flipping me back into 24 kilowatts, and I wasn't sure if I was getting some defaults that were inaccurate. And so I've been trying to resolve my first question, 24 or 30 kilowatt hour battery, before I dig in deeper with the rest of Leaf Spy. But yeah, and then I went and put in a 20% buffer on my battery, and I didn't check first to see what is it when before I set the 20%. So is it a 0% buffer or what was there beforehand? So anybody can help me with that one, because I'd like to get myself more range and
I'm gonna do
get a
Leaf Spy tutorial due out next month.
Yeah. Well, could you not just charge it to 100% someday, and then it'll tell you what your charge is on the battery? That should tell you whether you got the 24 or the 30 kilowatt battery.
If it's working that way, then I have a 24.
Yeah, I suspect that's what you have.
Yeah, and more and more I believe that.
Yeah, because I'm getting mine showing most of the time at maximum charge I get is like 18. And as far as for the charge itself, and yeah,
Very good. Thanks,
bring that
Don,
up.
and thanks, Doug. Any more questions? Anybody got something to add?
That's Bernie here.
Okay.
BC Hydro's got something coming up shortly as a get together, and I was just wondering what's the thought of what BC Hydro should charge? Has anybody got thought about that? Or I'm just wondering, so that we're not all over the world. And
Right on. So we have,
Hi, David. BC Hydro was looking at roughly 25 cents a minute, maybe $15 to $16 an hour. That was sort of the area they're in. City of North Vancouver is currently charging $16 an hour, which it breaks down, I think, about 30 cents a minute or something like that. So that's where all these people are kind of looking at. The goal, as Kelly will tell you, is to try and get people to move on when they got an 80% charge rather than to use it as free parking. That's been one of the problems with DC quick charges.
well, Petrocan is what, 30 cents a minute? I think anyway, I can't remember now.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah, 30 cents a minute. So BC Hydro will probably go the same
Yeah.
route. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the 4th of this coming Friday. I'll see if I can find the email that if you want, I will send the email I got and I'll post it in the chat.
the link is on our website. Mentioned that at the start there. If you just click on
Guys
that,
are
that
great.
should take you over to there and you can register for that event.
And Ted dropped by the about to open hydrogen station here, and they had left their pump rate on screen at $20 a minute.
Give me more.
How much does a minute give you?
Pardon me?
How much does a minute give you? How many kilos of hydrogen does a minute give you?
Well, that's a whole other discussion because they've also listed the price at, I think it's $12.80. Or Glenn, do you remember? Is it $12.80? Ted, are you still here?
$12.80.
$12.80.
It was $12.80 plus an additional $2 flat connect up fee. So what that adds up to, who knows? It's not cheap.
No. But
But
you
the
can
$2
set-
was
Yeah, you can set the maximum you're willing to pay when you
$75, I think you can set it at.
Yeah.
Going back to keeping track of the power, with my RAV4, I plugged it in a rather unique way. So I built an extension cord, and for $26 off Amazon, I got a kilowatt meter.
Yeah.
And I just wired it in. So Doug, you could do that too. You'd have to probably not get the electrician to do it, but just somewhere in the line between your panel and where it connects to the EVSE, you just hook it in. It needs the 220 volt supply. It's little tiny, like 20 gauge wires. And there's a loop that goes around one of the conductors. And it just keeps track of how many amps are going through there and the voltage, and it calculates for you. It's cheap and easy to do. But the thing is, you're measuring how much comes out of the wall, so to speak. It doesn't take into account the loss in the EVSE or the charger itself, or battery heating, all of that stuff. So there's a distinct difference between how much electricity you get to use and how much you're paying BC Hydro for.
Yeah, but you should base it on how much you're paying BC Hydro for, because that's your total hydro usage.
That's right, but it doesn't help you with calculating range and stuff like that.
That's correct.
But your range would be based on a true electrical use, which I like better as well. I agree.
Yeah. So your kilowatt meter, I have one as well, but it's just for my 110. It's like a 3-prong plug on my 110. I used to use that when I used my level 1 charging, but when I moved to level 2 charging, obviously I can't do that anymore.
Oh, you can. I won't run out to the shop and get it. I don't use it now because I've got the flow plugged right into the wall. But it's basically the same thing, except you have to hardwire it into the system. The kilowatt meter is what, $30 or $40, and you just plug it in. This one is an electrical device that has to be put in a box somehow. And I haven't got around to legally putting it into my system in the shop.
I know. I asked my electrician when he installed my level 2 if it's possible to put a meter in at the same time, and he said it's just an awkward thing to do. Although you could put it on the line itself, like where I have a bit of wire exposed where it goes from my inside of the house to the outside, in the closet that it goes through the wall with, and theoretically one could cut the wire there and put a meter on it.
Yeah, yeah, you could do that. And it's just a matter of buying a meter base and getting the electrician to put it in and plugging in a meter. I've
Mhm.
got a spare meter in the shop, you know, an old BC Hydro meter that I paid $20 for at a garage sale. And the Bradley GT2 that I had was owned by a hydro lineman, and he had a meter under the back hood. Like it was based on a Volkswagen, so it had a trunk, and you could look in and see the meter, and you could measure exactly what was going into your car.
There it is, folks. Another quiet and
Okay. Well, I could
sunny
talk more.
Saturday afternoon. This
So
group
if
is
you're looking for
particularly
somebody-
quiet today.
You're looking for somebody to say something, I'll be happy to.
Well,
say.
yeah, you go ahead, Bruce.
One of the challenges I think that all the new car dealers in BC have got right now was expressed to me by a GM dealer who asked me what was going on a couple of months ago and how come he hadn't seen anybody coming in, even looking at electric cars anymore. They thought it had dropped off a cliff. And I said, well, there's still people buying electric cars. Just within about a mile of your location here is Tesla's delivery location on Great Northern Way. And I happened to be in there last Friday with a friend who was picking up a Tesla Model 3. And he asked the woman who was doing delivery how many cars they would deliver that day. And she said 45. And he says, that's pretty impressive. What are you going to do with the rest of the weekend? You know, relax? He said, oh, no, we got another 45 tomorrow and maybe 50 on Sunday. I was in there last week and asked them what they were going to do on the Saturday. And they said they were doing 68 cars. So that's who's buying all the electric cars and that's who's selling them all. So it's kind of tough for the other dealers if they can't get stock. They can't sell cars, and but somebody's buying all those cars.
So the GM dealers don't have any bolts on their lot?
GM dealers have got bolts on their lot. Their problem is they can't move them because people aren't coming in to buy them because the Chevrolet Bolt EV in its top form is about $52,000. A Tesla Model 3 in its Range Plus form, which is the one they're selling that gets the $8,000 rebate, is selling for about $52,000. And somebody I know yesterday who's driving a Nissan Leaf right now had been offered the chance to buy a new Nissan Leaf. And he was offered 11,000 trade-in on his Nissan Leaf. And then he saw the same dealer advertising his 2015 Nissan Leaf, which was the same as his, for $18,700. So the dealer was going to make $6,000. Well, what was it, $5,000, $6,000 on buying his Nissan Leaf and selling it to somebody as a used Nissan Leaf.
Yeah.
And so he went for a test drive in Tesla Model 3 and he said, you know, I'd pay $20,000 extra to buy that Tesla Model 3 over the Nissan Leaf they were going to sell me. And the difference deal was $37,000 for the 2020 Nissan Leaf. And the difference deal for a Tesla Model 3 would be $15,000. So that's what's really happening with the electric car industry right now. And that's the thing that your new car dealers are facing as far as electric cars are concerned. General Motors did a promotion with a special low cost to buy vehicles. And the dealer I was talking to sold a whole bunch of trucks that month. Nobody came in to buy a Nissan Leaf. Another Vancouver GM dealer, Carter is advertising right now with their 2 stores, North Vancouver and Burnaby. Come on in and buy an electric car or buy a car, 0% financing and $500 credit right now for Black Friday sale. Just trying to move iron. So it's a real tough market out there for these guys right now because they just don't have the product.
And GM has made a statement that they're going to bring in something like 20 new electric models within 5 years or so.
Yeah, and Ford has made a statement in Canada. They got a whole whack of money from the Canadian government to keep that plant open. And by 2025 or 2022, I guess it is, they're going to start building electric cars and they're going to have so many electric cars by 2025. My concern is 2 companies. One, Nissan, who is seriously in debt right now and has lost a whole pile of money this year. And Ford, who's really the truck company. Ford makes all their money off selling F-150s. If that Cybertruck comes out in 2022, with 600,000 people wanting to buy it, what's going to happen to F-150 sales?
Well, they sell 20 million or several million of those a year, so.
No, actually closer to 800,000, I think.
Yeah, nobody sells a million cars anymore.
No, I mean of just the Ford trucks.
Just the Ford F-150s, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're making, I think it's US manufactures 8 or 9 million cars a year now, vehicles a year, passenger and light truck vehicles.
Yeah, the North American, the whole North American production is, which of course includes Canada and Mexico and the US, it's about 17.
Yeah.
They're hoping for 17 million this year, but I think they're going to be down 10%, maybe 20%.
And China's 27 million, I think.
Yeah. But, you know, GM, they've said, yeah, we're going to have 30 different EVs available by 2025. We'll be producing 1 million a year.
Your check's in the mail.
Yeah. And, you know, even if they're producing 1 million a year, that's like 11% of 2019's production. You know, that's still pretty pathetic. And by 2025, Tesla should be kicking out 5 million minimum a year. So,
well,
you know,
there's also a half a dozen new manufacturers of EVs coming on board.
Yeah.
And perhaps more than that, include China, way more than that.
Yeah.
Zach and Jesse have got an excellent video called Coming Soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should watch it. The other interesting video that was just recently was Transport Evolved, talking about hybrid vehicles and the study they did in Europe between the 3 popular plug-in hybrid vehicles and the how efficient they are. If it's a plug-in hybrid vehicle that you own, you're probably driving as much electrical range on it as you possibly can. If it's a plug-in electric vehicle that your company has given you because it's a company car and you've got a gas card, guess how much time you're plugging that car in and using your own electricity at home? Pretty close to zero. So that's the dirty little secret of the hybrid plug-in cars sold in Europe right now that they've discovered, is that the people that are actually driving them aren't plugging them in, they're running them really as gas cars, and they get the HOV lane access.
Yeah, and they also get, you know, about $2,500 to $3,000 less taxes a year. So that's what drives that whole company car business. And that is, in the UK, about 60% of the car market is company cars, right? You're hearing a lot of statements from the legacy internal combustion engine industry of late. And a lot of those statements, a lot of those spending commitments and stuff are mainly so that the people who are currently invested in them don't run away today. They're trying to protect their ability to be able to get money, right? When they go to a bank with their hat in hand, because saying we need more money. Right now, the banks are saying, sure, but it's going to cost you. The other manufacturer who's producing a ton of EVs right now, they got banks banging on their door saying, hey, can we give you some money? And, you know, that's the difference.
Who's that?
Tesla. Tesla doesn't deal with banks anymore. They say,
It doesn't need any money.
we'd like to raise money, and later that afternoon, a couple $2 billion shows up.
If you go talk to your local Tesla dealer and you ask him to try and finance a Tesla, they have finance rates out of all the major banks, Scotiabank, Royal Bank, you name it. They're all just champing at the bit to try and loan money to Tesla purchasers because they know that people are buying the car and they want to be able to rent the money out. Biggest problem your banks and credit unions have got right now is nobody, well, except for mortgages, nobody's really renting out their money. So they're going to try and do something in order to pay some kind of interest rates to somebody. The other thing Tesla is doing right now, even in Canada, they're doing this lease rate where you can lease the car for 3 or 4 years at a fairly decent lease rate. And at the end of the 3 or 4 years, you have to turn the car back into Tesla. So they're already seeding that market for robo-taxi in Canada too.
Yep.
It's just going to be a really interesting couple of years here, fellas.
Oh, yeah. And in California, where Tesla is already trialing out Tesla insurance, because they know far more about how you drive, you individually drive, plus what their car can do for you. They can tailor their insurance rates to undercut anybody else, because insurance is all about data and they've got it all. So expect them to start cutting the legs out from underneath the insurance industry. PDQ.
Well, there's a big insurance company out of, I'm trying to remember the name of the insurance company. But there's just pulled out BC Marketplace right after the election. And does anybody know the name of that insurance company? They were a big insurance company. They insured my cousin's car. And they're your basic $250,000 insurance is ICBC. After that, you can go to anybody.
Yeah.
And they just announced that they're no longer going to rate car insurance in BC. So they've already pulled out.
Interesting.
Well, they're pulling out because ICBC is lowering their rates. And they don't have, part of it is pressure to try and force ICBC to allow competition on the basic coverage as well, which can't happen or won't happen because ICBC will be left with all the lemons and they'll cherry pick all of the people that don't have accidents.
I attended the memorial service for Dave Barrett. And one of the things they talked about at the memorial service for Dave Barrett was why the NDP brought in ICBC. It had really nothing to do with being nice to young people in BC and getting them insurance. It had everything to do with the fact that where do the reserves get stored for the insurance? So we all pay our $1,000 a year for our insurance, and that money goes and gets invested someplace. If your insurance company is based out of Ontario, you can bet that it gets invested in Ontario. If your insurance company is in BC, it gets invested in BC. And it did one heck of a lot of left-hand turn lanes in the lower mainland financed by ICBC. So that's really one of the advantages of ICBC, because let's face it, ICBC recognizes when you make a left-hand turn in traffic, you've got a better chance of getting hit by the cars coming towards you. So if we put left-hand turn lanes and left-hand turn lights, there's less chance of an accident happening. So it was in their best interest to do that. But would a private insurance company out of Toronto do that? I really doubt it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. It's one of the rationales that auto insurance was brought in by Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and BC is that the pool of money, the reserves are here in BC to be reinvested in BC, and a lot of it at least is lent to the province. And in the BC Liberals case, they just stole all the reserves to reduce their deficits. That's why the company's in trouble, because it has no reserves left.
And on our other great idea that got messed up for a while there, BC Hydro. I think they've just got approved by the BC Utility Commission to step up the rates next year. So the other leg of what we do here, solar, might be a good time to pull the plug, guys. Mm-hmm. Sorry, pull the trigger, pull the plug on BC Hydro, pull the trigger on buying solar.
I only wish I could join you guys. I don't live on the Sunshine Coast, and the neighbor next door spent $70,000 to raise the roof up of his house. So I'm in his shadow right now, and I live east of Mount Seymour, where there's another big shadow. So for me to put solar on the roof, and all the trees around us, because I'm in Deep Cove in North Vancouver. So, I mean, I need to put solar at about 1,000 feet to have any advantage.
Yeah.
I would love to put in solar. I've been eyeing it for a long time. And if they increase the BC Hydro increases the rates, it'll probably become cost effective. Then I can turn to the mate who's filling up a gas vehicle and say, you haven't started making your own fuel yet?
Mike Baker's got, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And another one that I just learned the other day, somebody else said that one, and I loved it, is bladder range. I'm a commute vehicle, so I don't deal with distance, but everybody's always asking me, how far I can go on my car, and is that good enough? Well, for the distance driving, all you need to be concerned about is that your EV exceeds your bladder range, and you're fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I can get a less efficient car because my bladder range is decreasing almost daily.
Here we go. Mike Baker, you've got a question about, I'm not even sure what it's about. Could you ask it? Unmute yourself. Mike? You have to unmute yourself. Got a question on
Yeah,
the
the OBD2 interface that you can plug into your OBD plug, and it reads all the details and data about your vehicle, and then it will transmit it usually through Bluetooth to a mobile device. I'm curious if anyone has been using these, and secondly, if you have, which one have you been using that hasn't perhaps screwed up the car computer? And I see Doug's got one up there.
Hold it up, Doug.
I'm interested in the model that people are using and what they're using as their, I guess you could call it their data analyzer on the mobile device.
Well, with Leaf Spy, you have to have an OBD2. And this one was from the research program. So if anybody wants to get involved in the research program, I can check and see if I can get this to you. But it's just a little thing like this. And with Leaf Spy, I have a link too, and it works great. Love it.
Well, Doug, that sounds really interesting. I wasn't aware of the research program. I'm involved in a couple of others coming up with BC Hydro, and a couple actually ensuing with BC Hydro. So I'd be quite curious about details of the program you're involved in or are involved in. So yeah, if you can provide the information maybe in the chat window, that would, I can write it down. And maybe anyone else here who's interested can do it.
Yeah, this one's a Fleet Karma, but BC Hydro ran the program with Ministry of Transportation, and I believe it was PlugShare BC did the research, started it maybe 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this one actually talks cell phone. So they were getting real-time data, battery temperature, fuel efficiency, speed, regenerative braking, how much power I'm using for my heater, everything. And that's why BC Hydro came out, what, 1.5 years ago and said 20 cents a liter is what it's costing. My vehicle on this device was one of the reasons for that.
Is that
on that program? I don't know, except that it got expanded and it's coast to coast across Canada now with 1,000 vehicles. The same research program got involved with others.
So that's working with not just Leafs, but also all the other models too.
Unmute.
You're muted, Doug.
Whoops, sorry, yes, this was done for all vehicles except for Tesla. I think Tesla may have been given a slightly different device, or they're given this and some sort of conversion.
Okay, Doug, I can't quite read the manufacturer details on that device. So if you've got something, oh, good. Okay, let's see. Go ahead and speak. Yeah, you have to speak so I can see it.
Oh, okay, there. Got myself activated, except it's a little blurry. I can do a scan on it.
Yeah, I can't read it. It's blurry.
I'll do a scan of it, and I put my email in earlier in the chat. Email me and I can email it to you and give you a picture of my other OBD2 that I use with the Leaf Spy.
No, that sounds good. I did write your email address down earlier, so I'll get hold of you and give you more information about what I'm after, and hopefully you can give me some more as well. It sounds really interesting what you've been doing.
Yeah, I can give you the email to the research people.
Yeah.
But they've shared nothing with me, except that I was able to download monthly data. But I switched over to Leaf Spy. It tells me way more, including my tire pressures, which is wonderful.
Right. And most of the devices are available on Amazon as well. And I saw Black Friday thing for the Leaf. It's about $25 at the moment.
Okay.
There is a Soul Spy too that I haven't gotten yet. but it seems to be dependent on the quality of the OBD2 reader.
Yes.
Some of them have cheap Chinese copies of the chip in them, and they will work with some and not others.
Yeah, not only that, but I've heard and read in a lot of the reviews that on occasion, the cheaper ones will screw up the computer in your car. In fact, on my Smart, I put in the scan gauge quite a few years ago, and I wound up going into the dealer to complain about some behavior of the Smart car. And they took one look at the scan gauge and said, you take that out and your problem will go away. So that's what part of what I'm after in my question to the group here is, have they found one of these devices that hasn't caused problems over a period of time when they're using it in their car?
Leaf Spy recommends a particular type. I'm just trying to get what it's called here. Well, here it is here. It's called an LE Link 2. And it's a OBD2 dongle.
Glenn's, look at the picture he's got.
And also, Doug, for you, if you've got questions on Leaf Spy, send them to the guy that Jim Pollock, who does Leaf Spy, and it's called wattsleft.meter@gmail.com. And he's very good at getting back to people. So wattsleft.meter@gmail.com.
Yeah, I hadn't wanted to bother him until I knew a little bit more about my battery size, but there is also quite an extensive manual that comes on your phone when you've downloaded Leaf Spy, and I still need to finish reading it too.
It's about 100 pages long.
I have a dumb question here about, I have no idea what OBD2 is and why would someone want to have it?
That's your connector that when you take your car into the garage and they hook it up to the computer, that's an OBD2 port. So onboard diagnostics level 2 is what that means. And it works on all cars, whether it's a EV or an ICE or whatever else, they all have these things. So when you take your car in to the garage and your ICE car, for example, and they want to do the diagnostics, they plug it into this port called an OBD2 port.
I can see the dealer doing that, but I can't see why a consumer would want to do that. But anyway, that's.
Well,
You don't have to.
No, you don't have to. But what it does is it through that port that goes into your car's computer, and then you have to have a program on your phone that can read the computer code and put it into some sense, and that's what Leaf Spy does. So Leaf Spy doesn't create data out of thin air. It goes into the Leaf's computer, and it resorts that information on its tables and charts, and it displays everything from your tire pressure to what the cell strength is on each of your cells in your battery. Like in my Leaf, there's 180 cells, I think, and it shows every 2 cells. So it splits them into 2. So it has 96 different little bars on it to give the indication of the health of each cell in the battery.
I had a demonstration of Leaf Spy by Kelly Carmichael, who was one of the first people that actually had a copy of Leaf Spy. And I said, well, that's really neat, Kelly, but why would this be useful for you? Well, he says, well, you can take your car into the dealer annually and have them do a battery check for you and pay them $150. Or you can pay the $30 for Leaf Spy plus another $30 for one of these dongles, and you can read that information yourself. You can also do tire pressure information and all the rest of the stuff you can do for your Leaf and get way more information out of your Leaf than the dealer can even give you when you pay them the $150 every year when you bring it in to have them do a battery analysis for you. What the dealer gives you is a joke compared to what Leaf Spy gives you. Exactly. So
I actually took my phone into the dealer and was talking to the mechanic and said, this is what Leaf Spy shows me. And he had this piece of paper with 5 different lines on it telling me what my battery was. And he wasn't even aware of it. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Shows you how curious they are.
I'd say it's worth it just to be able to look at your tire pressure on a regular basis,
That's interesting.
especially if you're in areas wwhere the temperature changes and then your
Yeah.
pressure changes
And-
quite a bit.
One of the neat things about a Nissan Leaf, of course, is I think it still tells you when you've got a low tire. It doesn't tell you which one's low. But what you can do with the Nissan Leaf is you go into the place where you put the air into your tires, you turn on your car, the air pressure hose onto your wheel, and you put air in your wheel until the horn chirps a couple of times. Then you know it's up to whatever they think is the optimum pressure. So that was one of the hidden features on a Nissan Leaf that I discovered. Of course, with my Tesla, just on the screen, it tells me what it is. So that's different.
And Leaf Spy tells you what that is as well. And it tells you when you can set up. So when you rotate your tires, you pick the pattern, you rotate your tires, and it follows that tire around.
It's awesome.
Do you want to upload example Leaf Spy screenshots?
Pardon me?
Would you like me to upload some example Leaf Spy screenshots?
Sure.
Sure, that'll help for some people that don't know what it looks like.
I'm going to interject here. The conversation's great, but I'm going to point out that we're now getting close to 3 o'clock, and I'm just going to wind this off and officially close my part of the meeting. And we're welcome, I think, to stay on as long as we don't get kicked off. And I just want to thank again Doug Beckett from Prince George EVA for your contributions. Jerry Dalvell, please, and thank you for that Kona insight. And Ted, along with our regular contributors from the club, for your contribution. Also, all of you have joined for this little event. It's been great to see you guys, you folks again. And as people leave, they're all thanking us for the great meeting, but they have to get going. So we have Glenn, thanks for your contribution. And also our special thanks to our Jim Henshaw, our puppeteer.
And
so I will, sorry, what's that, Jim?
As the puppeteer, I'll just let everybody know that our next meeting is December 12th, and that will be the last one of 2020.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
So that's great. So thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Doug, do you want to do your screenshot thing, Eric? Yeah, thanks, Jim.
I'll have a hard time saying a cheer for the end of 2020. Thank you.
If for no reason, then it's finally over.
Hey, we didn't think 2019 was so great.
So this screenshot shows I'm at state of charge at 31.4%. GIDS, I'm not sure quite what GIDS are, but they're similar to state of charge, 21%. Showing the temperature, in this case, remaining 4.6 kilowatt hours. Gain state of charge, amp hours. It shows all of your cells and tells you what the spread is. So your minimum 3.814, average 3.825, maximum 3.835. Millivolt difference 21 millivolts. So that's pretty high spread, but that's an example. Typically I'm around a 9 millivolt spread. So that gives you a sense of the health of your battery. There's 3 battery temperature sensors in my battery. It tells you what your battery temperature is. This is telling you the dynamics of what cells are receiving power, which ones are giving power as they are balancing themselves. There's an HX, which is supposed to be very meaningful. In my case, I'm 84%. Tells me I have had 4 quick charges on my car out of almost 45,000 kilometers, 1,711 level 1 and level 2 charges. So quite neat information. And here's my tire pressures. And it does tell you per tire. It won't necessarily be the right tire unless if you program it to know which tire is which, but that's a big help.
Great program. What does HX mean?
I need to read the manual more. Anybody else with leaf spy can tell us, because it's supposed to be, that's better than state of health. If you notice my state of health, I'm well over 90% state of health. My state of health has actually been increasing in the time period, 7,000 kilometers I've been driving it.
So where do you plug this thing into? Whereabouts on the car is this?
It's under the steering wheel near your right knee. And I have a flat contraption that goes into it with a telephone cord up to my dash, and I plug my OBD in above it. You don't want to plug the OBD straight into that and drive with it. I also have a cell phone holder, so I can actually set it to a screen I want, and as I'm driving, I can see what's going on. There's also an elevation and speed one, so I can see the elevation difference between my house and where I work and back. And yeah, it's cool.
Why is it you don't plug it in directly? I've had mine plugged in directly for 3 years.
I'm just very fearful of my knee hitting it at some point, especially I share the vehicle to let people who never drove an EV to try EVs. Some people are tall. The other thing is, if you're plugging it in and out, you don't want to do it on your main pins. So use the adapter, plug it in, keep it there, and it's in there all the time. So you're never destroying your pins, and even it's less degradation of your pins than taking it into the dealership, because that's what they plug into all the time. Now they plug into my other one, and if those pins go, I just buy a new adapter for a few bucks.
So you run it up to your dash, Summers, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.